a new leaf, new beginning. Bluer shade of pale, and there's one more, I think, but it was coming from a place, like I said, where God was really transitioning me out of this worldly music that I was listening to, and I was the type of guy who in college I was depressed, I would isolate, I think withdrawn, and what I would do is I would listen to this music, and it was just this like blues, really sad music. It would just get me even more depressed, and so this feeling. And that's the sickness that we have before we come to Christ.
Truthcast Podcast. Truthcast Podcast. Setting the captives free. Helping the blind to see. Exposing the darkness with the light. Truthcast Podcast. Truthcast Podcast. Truthcast Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Truthcast Podcast. Today, we got with us another special guest. We got with us the one and only John Kane in the building. A artist, gospel artist, and he does music for the kingdom, which is very good. You know, we need a lot of artists for the kingdom. Little do people know that music is a powerful weapon, and music can be used for two things, evil and good. We see in the music industry, they have a big voice, they have a big platform, they have a big influence with people. And once they have that music, I'm telling you, music is a powerful weapon, and it can be used to praise God. It can be used, when you're in church, you have worship music on, and everybody is in one accord, and we singing this one hymn or this one praise and worship song, and everybody, in the power of God, just be moving powerful, and I'm saying, music is a powerful weapon, and you when you see like Taylor Swift and all that kind of people. They use their music, the gift that God gave them, the talent that God gave them for the world and for the enemy and the devil. And it'd be crazy. It'd be really crazy. And but they have influence on people. You see on, especially Taylor Swift, these young women, they be so crazy about her because not only the music, but it's such a demonic present at the concerts and everything like that. We would get on and talk about more about the music and every kind of thing like that. But until then, let's welcome our guest, John Kane, inside the building.
Thank you.
What's good?
God bless you, brother. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Kane, just tell us what was actually before you actually get into your testimony. Tell us what was John Kane, in his childhood, like 16 or 17, because when you start getting a teenager, that's when things bad start happening, and you start having your own thoughts. You start saying like, oh my goodness, I want to do this. I want to explore. And little do you know, it's really, is leading you to a wrong path, and you get caught up doing other things. So please take us back, when you was a teenager.
Yeah. So when I was 16,
as a teenager, yes.
Thank you, man. So I had my first drink at 16, actually, and I was really, really uninterested in everything that was church. I think the last time I went to church, I was 12. And I was in a Episcopal church. We were, pretty worldly. But Jesus was involved. He was in the message, and he was there whenever I was worshiping him. When I left the church, the world just came in full force. And when I was 17, I remember the only thing I cared about going into my senior year was getting a girlfriend and getting into a good college, and then wherever the next party was.
Mm.
So I was
Mm.
writing music at that point. I was in a band. Um, we were called Pre-Generation, which, if I look back, it's actually kind of prophetic
Mm.
because it was like the pre-reborn generation, the Jesus generation. And you see a lot of pastors these days, and they'll say, "I see a generation standing for Jesus and standing for the faith." And
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do.
it
You
was
do.
really me before that whole thing happened. And it doesn't mean that we were writing songs that were like demonic or anything outright. But one thing the Lord convicted me of in this last season was that the music that I write, I'm not going to find any satisfaction in it if I don't write it for Him.
Facts. Facts. Mm-hmm.
So I'll take you back to that summer. I mean, I went away for 5 weeks. I was at a program for strong students in New Jersey. And that kind of brought me into the worldly academic sphere. So we had one professor at this program who was a Christian, a former atheist, pro-life, conservative, you name it. And he would sit up debating us for hours every night.
Mm-hmm.
And, I love all the other professors there, but he made the biggest impact on me long term because like no one else would take those positions, man. If you think about it, in academia, and I figured this out when I got to college, being a Christian, being a conservative, being pro-life, or any kind of conservative nomenclature is very, very frowned upon. And it's not a very popular position to take.
Facts.
So
All
God
facts.
bless this man. Yeah. Because it was a seed, and there was another teacher in middle school too. And I hope she sees this because, I just want to give her a shout out, Ms. A. What's up? And she really helped plant the seed of faith as something serious and not something to be kind of laughed to scorn like so many of the academics were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I was a musician in high school. I was in that band my senior year. We did whatever we did, and it was fine. But the partying picked up a lot, I have to say. And when I got to college, I was partying even more, drinking every weekend, sometimes during the week, going to clubs all the time. And my focus was on drinking, partying, music. Again, I joined another band. I was the bassist in this band. But what was interesting, was that I lost all focus on songwriting. And I just had no spark. I had nothing creative happening in me.
Facts.
Yeah. So that band broke up. I was 20 years old, and that's when I bought my first Bible. And that's been my Bible ever since. That's been my love letter from God. And that's how Jesus opened the door to my heart. Now, it took a couple years later for me to actually let Him in, 7 years to be exact. So it's been a long journey, man. But
Amen. Amen. So I think your story, a lot of people, can relate to it. Especially if they was grown in the church, right? If they a PK kid. I think a lot of people like me, even though the thing about, because I'm not like other people. I don't, I wasn't like, oh my goodness, when I get 18, I want to do this, I want to do that. Since I was the littlest, I think, I was really protected, by parents and stuff like that. I was really they really watched over me. They watched over all all my brothers and sisters as well. And none of my people, my brothers and sisters that lived with me, they wasn't like, oh my goodness, I want to go in the world because there's something else out there. Like this was something like when we was children, we was taught like there's something else out there. Like there's something else out there, and we wasn't saying like it wasn't just like there's something else out there. Just trust us. Just don't do it, right? They actually we actually saw it not only on like TV, but sometime in person. Like, what's that guy is doing? What's that guy doing? Like he's drinking. That's what happens when you do this and that and this and that and this. What's that guy? What that guy? What is he doing? What do you have in his hand? That's a cigarette. That's that's when you get addicted to weed and all that kind of stuff. So they pointed it out. It wasn't just like, don't do this, just trust me on this, right?
Right.
What child is going to say, okay, I trust you?
Right.
Yes, for a while. But when you like get in a certain age, you be like, yeah, why? Let me find out for myself, right?
Exactly.
So
Well,
they always like straightforward, like this and that and this. And not only we saw it in person, but also on TV and everything like that. We saw what like, it's not trying to be racist or anything like that, but like a lot of, African American people and children, they always get caught up in, drugs, and if not drugs, alcohol, selling cocaine, being a drug lord or anything like that.
well, yeah, and they
And
work in,
the fruits of that,
mhm,
the only is no, it's not good fruits.
mhm.
Only thing that happen is they go to jail,
Yeah.
they get out, they go to jail,
Yeah.
or they go out, or they get killed. That's the only thing that happens.
Yeah.
So we
Jail
was
some of
always
them
taught, we always taught, and we saw examples as well. And and to bring up another point, you mentioned that you was in a Episcopalian church. Am
Yeah.
I right? And you said that they really, they was kind of worldly and stuff like that, but they
Yeah.
preached the gospel. Um, and one reason is you can't mix wrong and right together, and that's
Exactly.
the problem with a lot of churches. You see, they trying to be like, trying to preach the gospel and kind of stuff like that, but then they want to mix the world inside of things, right? They want to mix evil and all that kind of stuff and think they'd be okay. And and if the congregation, and most people really don't, look for themselves. They don't read the Bibles. They have their pastors, to do it for them.
Yeah.
Like, you're my pastor, why should I read my Bible if I'm going to church every Sunday?
Mhm.
Or if I'm going to Bible study every Wednesday? Like, why should I do this? Right? That's how people think. And since that church really wasn't, really wasn't in the right, because that one little speck of, trying to be like the world, that church wasn't like the right church to really be in.
Right. Yeah. I tried
Even
to go
though,
back there.
huh?
I tried to go back there, and there was a gay pastor.
Because that's the reason. Because they really wasn't trying to be like a true Christian church that's based on the living word of God. And since they was trying to um give in to this new generation of so-called Christians, they want to be Christian, but they want to look like something else. They want to be Christian, but they want to act a certain way, right? They want to be Christian, but they want to do certain things, right? And
Well, they want to have it
and
both ways. They want to have the world and Christ. But it
facts,
says in
facts.
the word that the
It doesn't
friendship
mix,
with the world is enmity with God.
right? It's
You
like
can't be
water and
friends with it.
oil.
Yeah.
It's like water and oil. It doesn't mix. It doesn't matter how pure that olive oil is. It can be the first press of the olive oil, and you can read on, you can read and you can see the first press of olive oil. That's the most purest olive oil, and stuff like that, right? And then they press it about 3 or 4 more times. They use it for oils, cooking, and stuff like that. But whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, if that's the first press of olive oil, and you put inside little things of water, it doesn't matter, because it's not going to mix. And like you said, it's because people want to do both, because they want to live for Jesus on Sunday and Wednesday, and then they want to be with their drinking buddies on the rest of the weekdays. And they like, there's nothing wrong with having a cold beer once in a while when football is on and stuff like that. I'm at a church that, I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about, a lot of people. They say like, I'm at a church that, when the game is on, they break service for that. That's important. And it's like they putting other things before God is because this is really hard facts. People put a lot of things before God because they think it's more important. Because your flesh, when you go to church at times, it doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
So if you die to your flesh, you have more control. God's control actually, and keep dying to your flesh daily. And let's just go back, back to the church that you was talking about, Episcopalian church. Now,
Yeah.
not because it's Episcopalian, that doesn't mean all Episcopalian churches is bad. Just
No.
because you Baptist doesn't mean that all Baptist church is bad. It's because you Pentecostal, whoever you want to be, whoever, right? But there's just some churches like Jesus only churches, like that's totally false. And it's because they only believe in Jesus only. They don't believe in God the Father. They don't believe in the Holy Spirit.
That's weird.
Yes.
I never
That's
heard
why
of
it's
that.
called. Yeah, that's why it's called Jesus only, because they
Oh.
only believe Jesus only and not the Holy Ghost, not the Holy Spirit. They think that's
Okay.
blasphemy. So you can never go to a Jesus only person and say, well, there's a Father, there's a Son, there's a Holy Spirit.
Right.
Now to them, they be saying, no, you're wrong. You're saying there's three gods and that and this and that and this. And they really confused because that's what they were brought up in.
Right.
And let's just go back. Let's just go back and to the church you was talking about, because I think a lot of people and a lot of churches is caught up in this. They try to consider and try to bend and they want to be with the cool crowd,
Yeah.
but they still want to call themselves a pastor, and
No,
it doesn't work.
Well, I think it's a problem in a lot of upper middle class churches in America where you see the media is influencing the congregation, and they're the people who watch the Grammys and they watch the Oscars and they go to Broadway shows and they like that stuff. And that's kind of where I grew up. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that lifestyle. But you have to realize that when you become a follower of Christ, you have to read what he said. And he said, pick up your cross and follow me. It doesn't mean go to like every show, that it just tickles the flesh or it just tickles the ears or whatever, or it's whatever you want to do. And then the problems arise when, like I said, outwardly anti-gospel like lifestyles start to infiltrate the church. And Jesus himself said, it is better for you to have a millstone around your neck than for you to make one of these stumble, like one of my followers, or especially children. And so, I just pray for those pastors that they kind of, and it's not the only church where I've seen that. I mean, I've seen pride flags in many churches. It's nothing new. But I mean, we're supposed to be discerning of the spirits. We're not supposed to sit and allow ourselves to be deceived. It says in the last days that many will come saying, here's the Christ, but don't go after them. That's 24. And as Christians, it's not so much, I don't think it's not my place to really kind of go in and expose all these. I only brought it up as a part of my testimony as saying, as I followed Christ, I started to realize that there's a real gospel and then there's a human gospel.
Right.
In other words, there's a divine gospel, and that's the one that I want to walk, because narrow is the gate and few will find it. And so that tells me something. That tells me if everyone's going along with it, it's probably not the right one to be on. And something is when I first bought that Bible, the Lord revealed to me that not very many people, if any, were going to understand what I was doing. And going after Christ has an intense cost. It's not something that you just do without counting the cost,
Right.
And so, my friends sat me down at the beginning. They were like, this is going to cost you a lot. And what the Lord did, though, was he showed me that, like, it's going to cost me everything. It's not just going to cost me, like, my weekend or whatever. It's going to cost me, like, and when I was going after Christ, it was like everyone that I knew before, they rejected me. They rejected me because of what I was saying and what I was turning my life over to, God.
Yeah.
And then those who were actually already in the church, since I was a new believer, when I had Christ in me and I was displaying like godly love, they accepted me, and they were glorified, or they were built up. But then the parts of me that weren't quite at the level of discipleship yet in my early 20s, that's the part that no one really talks about, because even fellow Christians can't help you there, because a lot of times they get caught up in their own walk, and they forget to see, I don't say they, but I say we now, forget to see new disciples, people who need discipling, and spiritual brothers and sisters who need our help. And those are the ones that, I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was naked and you clothed me. In prison and you visited me. These people who are coming into the church, they've been hungry, thirsty, naked, and in prison for a long time.
Yes.
And it's our job as, somewhat, now I consider myself, I've passed that stage of maturity somewhat and put on the full armor of God. And I consider myself in a position of responsibility now to go after those who are just seeking the Lord. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to be preaching on the street corner, or like Ray Comfort or something, but maybe one day, but not right now. But right now, my place is in the church and praise and worship and building up those younger disciples in their Christian walk.
Right. Because God have a job for every person, right? God have a job for every believer. Now here's a problem with a lot of believers. There's a lot of podcasters, there's a lot of artists, they're trying to do the same thing. If you get what I'm saying. There's a lot of artists that are trying to be a podcaster, but God didn't call them to do that. There's a lot of podcasters that are trying to be an artist, a Christian artist, do music. God haven't called them to do that. There's a lot of influential speakers, that do speaking and travel. They're trying to start a podcast, but God not called them to do that kind of thing. And the reason is you really need to wait on God and know your job that God is allowing you to do, right? You can't just say, oh, okay, I like this, my friend's doing this, let me try, right? It's nothing like that. When you're doing something for God, you have to stay in your place. Now listen to this. Listen to this. We read in Leviticus that one of the people, I think it was Aaron's sons, but he wasn't part of the Levites. He was trying to go into the tabernacles where the holies of holies was, but God killed him before he even stepped inside, because he didn't have the garments. He didn't have that wasn't his responsibility to to do that.
Yeah. I think it was one of the kings, and he got stricken with leprosy, but I can't remember which one it was.
What'd you say?
I think it was one of the kings, wasn't it? Or maybe there's two different stories. I just read Chronicles, so I'm just like, oh, but yeah, it's absolutely true what you're saying.
Yeah, it's and also another event was when the Philistine took the Ark of the Covenant from the Israelites, and when it was coming back, one of the people was so excited they were just rushing to catch it because it was about to fall. But that wasn't his job. He wasn't a priest, and God just cut him in sunder, just put his breech, and he died instantly. Now, why am I? What people might be asking, preach? Why are you saying these stories? It's getting to a point because God have a specific job for each and everyone, right? That's saved. Now, some people's job is to stay silent and let their light speak out. And people don't, it's probably not the funnest thing to do because, you love to speak out sometimes. And the funny thing about it, the people that are not supposed to speak out want to speak out, but the people that God called to speak out against evil, speak out against wrong, go to different churches and speak out, tell the gospel, tell the truth. They don't want to speak out because they don't, like you said, being a Christian is just not, oh my goodness, I'm a Christian. Everything's going to be smooth sailing along the way. No, because like you said, there's things that you lose, friends, family, and people start hating you. And you gotta, like you said, there's two different kind of gospels, and there was the true gospel and there was people own opinion gospel. If you get what I'm saying,
Yeah.
like people read the Bible, and if they don't like it, they give their definition of what God is saying, and not really asking the Holy Spirit, like, what are you saying? Because they don't care, because that Bible verse, whatever that said, is speaking to them and it convicting them, but they don't like that. And they're like, oh no, I don't like this. I don't like this. I'm gonna change it. God didn't say this. He didn't mean this. He didn't mean it this way. You reading the verse wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And they start
and
deconstructing.
right, well, right, facts, deconstructing the Bible, cherry picking the Bible, only preaching, the things you want. There's blessings on His way. God is going to
Yeah.
bless you and multiply you.
Yeah.
You have a door open, but you must give a tithe and offering.
Micah 3, right? Yeah.
Right, like it's nothing wrong with God, God, the Bible, and the Bible support tithes and offering. There's nothing
Right.
wrong with that. The problem is that some pastors act like God said something, but He really didn't say it. Oh, there's 16 different people in this church. They got $3,000 to $5,000. Come up here now, right? And not we try to make fun of them, but wrong is wrong, right? Right, wrong is wrong. We can say this, and we probably all can agree that there's a lot of pastors, there's a lot of Christians of today, suffering with lust. Oh my goodness, you're a Christian and you suffering with lust. As you just beginning your walk with Christ is a journey, and some things you still still stuck to you, and you got to die to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can't just say
support groups and everything, and that type of thing. Though, the more young men are coming to Christ, the better I feel about it, really, because the issue of pornography in our society is so accepted. It's so, and even 20 years ago, if you were trying to, maybe 20 years ago is when it was just starting, but say 30 years ago, it was still indecent and it was still considered morally wrong. But now it's just considered kind of part of life, and just doing, boys will be boys, and
right.
Just let them have whatever. But they don't realize that it's a plan of the enemy to deplete us, to deplete and to fix our eyes on that which is perishing and not on the eternal gifts.
Facts, hard facts. Once again, the thing is, you don't see a lot of people sitting down to talk about these things because it make people uncomfortable. This is one reason why I made this platform. I felt led to make this platform because you don't see a lot of people that that's ready to talk about situations and subjects that make others cringe or close their ears.
Yeah.
Not only pornography, but topics about the Bible that make people feel, oh my goodness, how could you say that?
Yeah, well,
right?
I mean, the main thing that I see in comments on YouTube and Instagram now is, God is different in the Old Testament and the New Testament. And
no, you're not.
Exactly. But the thing is that it's like what you said. It's, if you want to read it that way, that's how you can read it.
Right.
You're not gonna.
You can't force the truth on somebody.
No, exactly. So, for me, it was like, so I think, and everybody is the same with their conversion story. Like, either something's going wrong in your life, or you don't have like the peace that you think you once had or you want, or there's just something off, right? And so for me, it was the songwriting really that stuck with me. It was like, okay, why are my three bandmates writing really good worldly songs and I can't seem to write one? And so that was the open door. Now, did I start listening to Christian rock right away? No. In fact, it's been recent. So that was when I was 20. I'm 27 now. And literally, God has been so patient with me, and He's walked with me and he's helped me clean out all the gunk out of my life. And what he revealed to me is I was worshiping him at church, but not in the car on the way home. And on the car on the way home, I was just kind of singing, dancing along to the devil's fiddle, you know? And it's like, do I still like listen to worldly music? Like once in a while when it comes on and, you know, maybe I'm at a party, I'm not going to kind of like be that guy, but it's just a lifestyle change. It's more of a, you know, it's like, and so what he revealed to me is like the music I make, it has to honor him. It has to be vertical music and it can't be kind of like people pleasing. And when I realized that, my perspective changed. And this is really recent. I'm telling you this because I have an EP out on Spotify and it's like mostly God honoring. But what he showed me is there's a way that I can make art that's true to myself, music that's true to myself, and honor him because he's my maker. So he knows every fiber and sinew of my being. So, and that's the only way that I'm going to be able to, you know, progress as an artist. And that's like, again, this platform is great that, you know, the fact that you made it and everything, because it gives a God honoring artist like me, like the like position to speak my mind on issues that actually count in the kingdom. And that's not something that you're finding anywhere.
Facts. And just to mention before we you know, get into, you know, music and everything like that, problem with a lot of people, and you know, sometimes I get caught up, you know, with this myself, is our opinions in our minds is laws. Whatever we say, we don't want to listen to others. We don't care what they said, right? Now listen, if you're a Holy Ghost filled preacher and you speaking the truth, you know you're speaking the truth. You know you're speaking the truth 100%. And other people come, you know, to you and start talking to you like, man, like I don't agree with you. The Bible didn't say this, that, and this, that, and this, that, and this. You're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to do that. Dude, it's no sense of like arguing with the person. And I think they should like tell them the truth and then leave it alone. But the fact is, so many people, they just like, my opinion doesn't matter. You should honor it. Everybody got their own opinion on certain things. But when it comes down to the Bible, no one have their own opinion. It's one opinion. Yeah. We all reading from the source, right? We all reading from the source, which is the Bible. Now, it's not my problem with how you read your Bible and how you understand your Bible. That's why you should have a pastor, you know, because the pastor, you know, it's good for you to study, you know, good for you to read, you know, on your own free time and stuff like that. But, and, you know, the Holy Spirit is the ultimate, you know, teacher. Mm-hmm. The Holy Spirit is the ultimate teacher. But if it's good, it's good, you know, to have a pastor, because a Holy Spirit pastor, that's why it's so many things. It's so many things. You really got to be led. What church should I go to? Right? And know God is sending you to that church. Doesn't matter whatever anybody else says. Doesn't matter if they don't agree with you that you went to a church. If you know that God told you to go to that church, go to it. Right? There's something that God will tell you, and your friends, family, you know, people never understand. Right? People that don't know you won't understand. Right? They don't understand the direction God is telling you. Because He doesn't always tell things to your pastor. Right? Right? Your walk, sometimes He does, sometimes He doesn't, because you have your own walk with Christ. I'm not only talking about you, but I'm talking about people in general. And the thing is, like I said, people have their own opinion, and people's opinion doesn't matter. It doesn't. I say this all the time. I don't give 1 cent of your opinion. All right? I come on a platform and you talk nonsense, I'm going to literally overtalk you and don't even hear what you said, and make sure the truth, you know, gets out, because your nonsense I'm not in charge of your nonsense. You listen to me, but you already have your opinion on the subject or the idea, what you think about it. Um, you hear a lot of people say you can't be perfect, and this is a subject that a lot of Christians, pastors, you know, they get wrong, right? And a lot of people like to say, well, the Bible is not really real. It's poems, it's parables, it's a bunch of stories to make you understand the situation. It's not real people. They wasn't, these people wasn't real. These are just like made up stories. It's like how Jesus did when he was telling the parables in the Bible. They say that
Yeah,
because
well,
if you believe that, then that's kind of, you got like a backbone to your argument. You got a backbone to Job. You got a backbone to
yes.
Noah. You got a backbone to Abraham. You got if you think these characters is fictional, you have a argument point.
Well, there's
But
one
if
story though that keeps telling itself over and over again. So how is that a coincidence? That's what I want to know,
what
because every
what
book in the Bible reveals God's plan for mankind.
what
The other
if
thing I was going to say
what
was that there's a point in Paul's letter where he writes, "There are many voices in the world, and I presume that none of them is without significance. But this is our hope." And then he goes on to state the gospel. And
mm-hmm,
then, and the God of all love will fill you with understanding, the height, depth, breadth, and width of the love of Christ, which is beyond human understanding. I know I'm getting that wrong, but I think it's in
yeah, I get what you're
Ephesians.
saying. Yeah, facts,
But the fact is that there are people out there and they have opinions, and parts of their opinions are true. And there
mm-hmm,
are parts that they've really thought about and they've made it into a good argument. And so for someone who's not schooled in theology or argument or apologetics, they can look at that argument and say, well, that's appealing and that's something that I want. And I don't want to have to deal with this sin in my life. So I'm just going to throw out the entire Bible and call it fiction and call it a fairy tale. And God is your magical sky daddy. And you go and you ask him for whatever you want.
mm-hmm.
And, it's all a load of baloney. And I'm
Right.
thinking, like, didn't you ever want to know whether something was just like, I mean, how much do we rely on ourselves in this day and age to give us truth rather than something that comes from outside of us? And
Mm.
anytime you think about love, the first thing I think about is God. And that's just where it leads me. I mean, because if there's love, then there has to be a lover. There has to be someone who loved us first, right?
Mm.
And there
The
has to be a
fact, yeah,
source.
the fact is, oh, they believe that Jesus was real. Yeah, there's tons of people believe that Jesus was real. Some believe that he was this good man, right? Some believe that he was a good man, and some people that we were talking about that think the Bible is really fiction.
Mhm.
They believe that Jesus is God, and what he did, he came down here to save us. They believe that piece. Just the different stories, like Elijah, and Abraham, and
Right.
Noah, and all those different people, all the different characters. They just characters. They stories to make
Yeah.
you think about life.
Well, look at Wikipedia if you ever want to know what the world thinks about the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Wikipedia doesn't think Daniel really existed, doesn't think
Mm-hmm.
Moses really existed.
Right.
Anyone before Noah definitely didn't exist, because we're all
Mm.
evolved from apes, right? So if
Right.
if you accept the world's
Right.
religions, if you
Mm-hmm.
accept the world right now with what academia is trying to make you believe, and it is a religion because it
Society.
takes faith,
Mm-hmm.
is that a bunch of spinning atoms or kind of nothing exploded and then everything came out of it and it was just
It
random
doesn't make
parts.
sense. It
It
doesn't
doesn't make
make
any
sense.
sense
It doesn't
because
make sense because the thing is, we have a creator that paid attention to every minute detail.
yeah, exactly. I mean, like, think
It,
about this, right? I heard this the other day, that the sun is 400 times as big as the moon, but the moon is 400 times closer to the earth than the sun, so they look the same size. What a coincidence,
yeah, yeah, and also
Just
they
like
saying
bizarre.
like yes, and also they saying like global warming and all this stuff. This new stuff is coming back up, and they saying like the sun is killing planet Earth. We
Yeah,
need to block the sun.
yeah, no,
How in the world are these idiots gonna drive up to the sun and put something over it for
Mirrors.
it to not shine.
No,
You can't
it's
even now listen.
but it's
They
despair.
had
They're
yeah
despairing their future.
yeah
That's what they're doing, and that's where this
right.
comes from. And it's sad,
It's
but it's
it's
not the
sad
way
and
we're gonna
nothing but
live.
talk. Hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
It's nothing but talk because you can't do nothing to the sun. You can't because this thing is a big ball of fire. Now
Exactly.
listen, they had. Give me 1 minute. I'll let you I'll let you finish real quick. But they had a it's kind of like a spaceship made out of steel because they knew like it's going to be hot and stuff like that. So about this inch of thick of steel, you know, like this inch, right? And they was flying it to the sun. It was more than over 1.5 million miles away from the sun, but the whole thing exploded and melted. The cameras and everything, wherever that the recording wasn't feeding back to the satellite and the transmitter back to Earth, everything else was gone. So
Mhm.
because the sun have they call like reflexes or whatever they call it, like at times the sun just it like a big wave of energy comes
Yeah, solar
and
flares.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that and it destroyed everything. So if they couldn't get um a robot machine close to the sun while it exploding, how in the world can you think you block it? Science is interesting, it's stupid, it's interesting and stupid at the same time.
Yeah.
It's interesting how, God gave man abilities to do a lot of things. There's some things man doesn't know, and it's nothing wrong to say, I don't have the answer to this.
Yeah.
But how man is, they greedy of knowledge. They want to know it all. They don't want to say, this is beyond me. There is a creator of the universe. And I'm still happy that we have, a society, that still, they still believe in God,
Yeah, amen.
somewhat. And since society and whatever society deems facts, that's what everybody else go with, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day, and I'm about to, I'm gonna get off the subject, but back in the day, when when men start marrying men and these stuff like this, the ABC community, when all this stuff started happening back in the day, when my grandmother was, little, stuff like that. When people came out, people hid that. That wasn't something they was open out saying, I'm this, right? It wasn't so straightforward, but nowadays they are. But back in the day, they used to put him in a mental hospital because people still believe, in the right way of marriage.
Yeah.
And nowadays, this is the new trend. You can marry a man. You can love whoever you want to love. That's what they think. And you
Yeah,
can
well, I
think,
mean, love is love. It just doesn't make any sense as a slogan because I could say, shoe is shoe, or, like,
yeah,
sky is sky. It doesn't like, no, God is love.
right,
And if we
right.
recognize that, then we know what love is.
And you can't, you can't love your own sex, as
Yeah.
you love a woman. This is not humanly possible.
Exactly.
Is not. And you say, well, I know somebody that they strange and they love this person. They've been with this person for years and stuff like that. That and this. Mostly because something happened in their life, right? Maybe their dad did something to them. Maybe something happened.
Yeah.
If they was in church, maybe one of the church members did something happen in their life. Nobody just born, they born and say, I want to be strange, right?
No.
Like nobody that, get born and they say, they think racist things, right?
No,
Racist, you don't see a Caucasian baby and an African American baby, doesn't want to hug each other, don't want to kiss each other, because at that age, when you're a child, you're not thinking about those things.
Right.
It's when you get older and you start listening to other people's opinions and start listening to other people, what they think, what they say. Then you start taking little pieces from different people and not really, doing your own research. You are copying off of others because you didn't do your own research, but wherever you heard from that other guy, the other lady, you deemed it as facts. And that's what you've been going off of for years. And the thing is, when you start having a conversation with somebody that does that and that did that, they don't have nothing to prove, to support their argument because they only got one thing, this and that and this. But you ask them why. Why? You ask them too many questions, they shut up because it doesn't make sense. Society now is sick. And since this new trend is going on, everything, you can be whoever you want to be. You can identify whoever you want to be. You could be a tree. You can be a cat. You can be a lion, whatever you want.
You see that guy in Japan who just spent $15,000 to turn himself into a dog?
What? Yeah, $14,000 to turn himself to a dog. And I was looking at that. I saw it on TV. I'm like, what in the world?
Made me uncomfortable.
And yeah, I was like, what in the world? So it is so. And the funniest thing is, and many people might know him. Piers Morgan, and I saw a clip of his show, and he had a lady that identified as something crazy, and another lady that was supposed to be an expert of identification, whatever the case might be. It was all crazy, right? And he said, why don't I just identify as an African American transgender man? And they're like, you can't do that. He's why. His sense of society say I can identify wherever I want to identify. Is why can I identify as an African American transgender male? And they're like, well, identification doesn't go that far. But it does. If they say you can identify wherever you want to identify, wherever you please, that means you can identify wherever. But no, because there's a narrative behind everything. This what's happening now is like a movie. It's a movie and there's a story. There's a reason behind every single thing, right? You see in a movie, like they have more than one or five, like 5 different movies to it. It's have a plot. And it's all leading to something. Whatever happened, the little details, if you miss it, that's your problem. But every little detail is leading to something bigger. And if it doesn't fit the narrative, they want you to store it, right? Yeah. Christians, conservative, like as you were saying in the first beginning of this podcast, conservative Christians, that's why they don't like some conservative or Christians because, you can be a conservative and you don't have to be a Christian, right? Yeah. There's a lot of conservatives that are not Christian, but they have Christian values. Yeah. But you can't be a Christian and not be a conservative, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because if you're a Christian and you believe every single thing that the left liberals believe, you're not a Christian because the left liberals, what they believe is going against what the Bible stands for. That means whites, free whites, right? There's really, I know that because people know society and people's not going to accept certain things. So they at the first or second week, like the first or second week of your pregnancy or whatever the case might be, you can get an abortion. But once there's a baby, if it's a baby, it's always a baby, right?
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't matter, right?
That's science.
Right. That's science. And people say, no, it's a fetus. What is a fetus?
It's Latin for a little person.
Yeah, the Greek word for is Latin, like you say, it's Latin, and it stands for offspring, little person, little offspring, next generation. And people say fetus because it sounds like it's saying nothing.
Yeah. But
the original word came from Greek, and what you say it means offspring, little person. So if it's a fetus, once a baby, it's already a baby. It doesn't matter what kind of form it is. Like I said, society nowadays is very messed up. Yeah. And we can talk about this back and forth. We probably have a 2-hour podcast, just talking about this stuff. But we can't beat truth in people. Like if you're not going to take what me and John just said and look at for yourself and run with it, I'm not even going to spend any more time on this. Let's get into music. I heard a couple of your songs. Pretty good. I loved it. And I always say I know a lot of underrated Christian artists. I mean, I know some big time artists We friends and stuff like that. They in my, they in my DMs, they in my phone and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I'm like, there's so many underrated Christian artists that I know. Like me, like I think you should tap in, right?
Mhm.
So, you wanted that underrated artist that I think is out there. One of them that I know personally. I know. You had like you just mentioned, you got a new EP out. Tell the viewers and the viewers that's listening his music to his Spotify and everything like that will
Yeah.
be in the comic section, so you can explore it, listen to it, follow John if you want to. So let's just cover your new track. What's the name of the album, and what was the inspiration? Because everybody got their own different way of of writing songs, right? Because even me, I write songs as well. And I have my own different way of how I get inspired to
Yeah.
write the
So
song. So, what was your inspiration to write this album and the title of the album? What
title of
was
the
the
album.
inspiration behind that?
Title of the album is New Leaf. So it's like
Yes.
from a line in one of the songs where I go, turn over a new leaf, shed the skin of unbelief. And then later in the song, I say, turn over a new leaf, spread your wings and take a leap. And
Mm-hmm.
that came to me after the passing of a friend of mine who was in college with me. And he was a Greek Orthodox who kind of, when everybody else um, ran away, from my faith, he encouraged me. And, he's in heaven now. He knew Jesus before he died. So I have faith that God saved his soul. But that album, that EP,
Facts.
um, amen. And he was just a, down to earth guy in a world where everyone was so consumed with materialism. And actually, the original title of that song was called Mount Athos, which is a place in Greece where there's a monastery, and it's like a 1,500-year-old monastery, and there's only men on this island because it was dedicated to the Virgin Mary. And these Orthodox types.
Right.
But anyway,
Right.
I thought it was cool the fact that he went there and they accepted him in for a month when normally people only stay for 3 days. So he has this really interesting story anyway. So rest in peace to Marcus. But anyway, that is where that song came from. But the whole album was out of a season of my life where I was really in this like scary spiritual place of not knowing where I was going to church, who my real friends were, what God wanted from me. And this
Mm-hmm.
took place in the last part of 2022, coming into 2023. I was working at UPS for a little while. I was working at Five Guys. I worked at Amazon. I had a lot of jobs and I couldn't hold down a job. And I was just kind of in and out of, of different 12-step programs and trying to get help for my drinking. And I was even in a sexual sobriety program, 12-step program. And at the end of all this, I had all this material and I had all these songs. And the more I worked on them, the more God showed himself through them and where he was. And the album is called New Leaf. There's a leaf on the cover, but
Mm-hmm.
my artist name is John Proudfeather, and I go by Proudfeather because, well, for two reasons. One is that while I was working at UPS, I used to wear a feather in my hat, and just as a sign that like I'm set apart, I'm not like of this world. I'm in it, not of it, and whatever.
Right.
But then
Right.
it also plays on this word proud father that I thought, and like the Father in heaven, our Father looking down on me, isn't proud of me like proud, but like is pleased with me, And I just thought it had a nice ring to it. So there are a couple songs on there that might not mention God, but I think the ones that do are New Leaf, New Beginning, Bluer Shade of Pale, and there's one more, I think. But that was was coming from a place, like I said, where God was really transitioning me out of this worldly music that I was listening to. And it was, I was the type of guy who in college, I was depressed. I would isolate. I think, withdrawn. And what I would do is I would listen to this music, and it was just this like blues, really sad music. And it would just get me even more depressed. And so this feeling, and that's the sickness that we have before we come to Christ, right? Because we're so in love with ourselves that we won't even give up the thing that's killing us. So, when I gave that up and I thought about the music that I was listening, I realized that the music I have to make is going to be God honoring music. And he was gracious. He gave me songs. He gave me a song that I wrote for my father. That's a Bluer Shaded Pale. He gave me a song that I wrote specifically for him. That's unreleased. I've got so much to say about him, and I want to have the opportunity to say it. There's this song that came to me in a dream recently. That was when I woke up. It was I saw my dad at the dinner table at our house, and he was singing this song, but I had never heard it before. And I had one line, and so I wrote it, and then I had the melody. But since then, I haven't been able to get back and work on it. But I have works in progress too that are very God honoring in their theme and in their nature, in their direction.
So, even the song that doesn't mention God, would you say the songs point to God in some sort of way?
Yeah, because my life points to God. And
I think that should be every Christians. If you're a true believer, your life should always point to God. You're not going to always say, "Oh my goodness, repent," and stuff like that, or to everybody you see. But the thing that you do, because Christians supposed to look different, and we live in another thing. Here's another thing about society. We live in society, that Christians don't want to really look too different that people leave them. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They don't want to look too different. Well, people are drawn away from them, don't want to be around them, because that's only they talking about is truth.
Yeah, because for me, it was the type of thing where I was just like that, But I was also in love with worship. And so I would come into church, and God was gracious enough to inhabit my praises and the praises of those around me to show me that he was real. And so I'd be overcome with emotion, but then it would all be gone after I had left. And so what's happened is as soon as I saw that, I was like the kid at the swimming pool who sees the high dive, and I'm like, I want to go on that. And God's like, just take your time. I'm working with you. I'm with you. I'm still with you. I need a lot of reassurance. And take your time, and you're going to write praises for me. And this was prophesied over me recently, that somebody said, you're going to write praises for God. And so
Amen.
It's been this calling of prophetic worship where anytime I go up on the mic, I sing something new, and I intentionally don't plan what I'm going to sing. And literally, as I speak, God draws into me, and I feel Christ's presence come over me, and I feel his love for me open up like an oven, like an oven door opening.
Yes. And that's what a lot of Christians should be like, not trying to have everything planned out, not writing everything on a paper, like what's going to happen. Because once you have the Holy Spirit have his way, then he'd be able to move in such a mighty way. Then, like, you might feel him usually on every other Sunday. You might feel his presence, but everybody else in the congregation don't feel his presence, because everything is so, fake.
Yeah.
Shouting is fake.
Yeah.
They got a time on the stand when the pastor played, the church kind of music.
Yeah.
When
gotta ask for the offering.
Right. Ask for the offering or stuff like that. Or when the pastor, is about to end, but he got that pastory voice, if you get what I'm saying, like, and he said, and all that kind of stuff, stuff. And then they have the music, dun dun dun, and all that kind of stuff. They got everything is planned.
Yeah, well, I'm so
Everything is
blessed, man,
planned.
because my assembly,
Yeah.
my congregation where I go in right now, it's part of the IHOP family, and you know what? I mean, it's so free flowing, and then you know, it's really spirit filled. But you're right, there is still some of that, and I mean, that's why I do my own worship ministry, and you know, I want to shout out Field Outreach Ministries for giving me their platform. With love to my brother Chris over there, and Sister Keela. Man, they've been so
Amen.
gracious to me to give me that platform, and really build me up. And Chris prophesied over me. You know, the pastor over there prophesied over me. You have a heart of David, and that just moved me like nothing else has moved me in a long time. Because David, when he danced before the ark, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and Saul's daughter saw him, and she was like, "Rrr," you know, but
Mm-hmm.
nothing could separate him from the joy of the Lord. And
Right,
that was a
right.
man who was really in love with the Lord.
Facts, facts, facts. And yeah, just to mention the story, because since you mentioned it, um, in her mind, and it was clearly what was in her mind. Like, why was you dancing with with two guys' clothes off? It wasn't because like it wasn't on purpose or anything or thing like that. Like he wasn't just saying, "Oh, let me skip, like move out of the way, guys. Let me take my clothes off." It's he was just so so um entrapped in the spirit,
Yeah.
with the Holy Ghost,
Yeah.
with God,
Yeah.
that things was happening around him that he didn't know nothing about until at the end.
Yeah.
And as if you and you can see, um, if you read a little down in the chapter, they didn't have any more children with that. With she didn't have no children with um David again, because I do believe until the day she died that she was still angry for what he did.
Yeah.
Um, Even though she was like madly in love with this guy, like
Mm.
before Saul was really, before they really knew that Saul was going crazy,
Yeah.
he was already going crazy. But nobody was saying like, Saul, no, Saul wouldn't do that. He loves David. He did that shit, and that's a lot of that's happened a lot. And they're like, man, no, he won't do this. He won't do this. Everybody like Saul is a good man. Like he's humble and stuff like that. But he just put on a baby face in front of everybody else. But when when everybody else was gone, he showed his true colors.
Exactly.
And so it was and this come with music again, because when David played his harp, the evil spirits departed.
Yeah.
Did you get it? That's how powerful music really is. That not all music. Now, like I said, there's good music and there's bad music. There's good, but good and bad in every single thing that's in
Yeah.
this world, right?
Yeah.
So good music, you know, you can ward off evil spirits. The Holy Ghost can come in. People can get saved. People can get delivered by by the praise, by the worship, and because some of these songs that artists get, like you saying, like God really gave it to them, not just a thought that came in their head, like, oh my goodness, I want to make a song, and you just want to write, right? But when artists like really depend on the Holy Ghost to move and wait, and not really listen to every follower that's like, man, when's your next single coming out? When your next album? Drop another EP, like drop this, drop this. Not listen to the crowd and just really waiting on the Holy Spirit to say, now it's time to drop. I got something for you. I'm working on this. No, stop this. Work on this. And and I'm not saying you're going to understand everything, because a lot of time you don't understand, what God is really wants you to do, right? Things happen in your life that you don't understand. Troubles happen in your life that you don't understand. But and you're like, man, Lord, oh Lord, like Lord, why did this happen to me? Right? That's a question that everybody asks. But then if you really look, like maybe 2 years past and stuff like that, if you really looked at what happened to you, and the trouble that happened to you was really terrible. Like there's no man could survive what happened. And you really got to give thanks to God, because you really got to remember that God was with you, even though you were suffering and stuff like that. But
Amen.
He was still with you because you healed, right? Even if it's happened to you, if somebody's going through some troubles right now, wherever the trouble is that's happening in your life, you still heal.
Yeah.
God's still with you. If you're a true believer, God is still with you no matter what. He's gonna
Yeah.
be with you until the end of the world. Did he say that? These are some of the promises. Listen, read the promises. There's go on Amazon. They have a promise book. Go read God's
Matthew 20,
promises.
Matthew
I
28.
think about 300 and something promises in the Bible, something like that. Read all the promises. God is is a man of his word. His word never fails. It never fall on the ground. So why is so many Christians fretting and it happens? It's like it's natural. Christians
Yeah.
fret. People, Christian gets worried at times. Like, oh Lord, why did this happen to me? Like I didn't deserve this, and stuff like that. Like I didn't deserve this, and and you got to really remember, like God is going to be always with you, no matter how the storms look. You see in Matthew's in the Gospels when the disciple was on this, on the boat, and the storm was, beating against the boat and stuff like that, and they're like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, um, like oh my goodness, like what, like I can't believe this just happened. Like we about to die and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what's Jesus when we need him?
There he was.
And they're like, okay. But here he goes on the water. He was always with them. He was always near where they was.
Yeah.
And here they fretting. But once you got on this, got in the boat, everything was calm.
Yeah.
Last question, and this is a question that I always ask my viewers. For you, what does it really mean to be a Christian?
Oh man, to be a lover of Christ. So Christian, is a word that means little Christ. We know that, but what does it mean? You have to want it, man. You have to want it, and that's why I think so many people have trouble accepting the gospel, because they just love their sin too much.
All facts.
If our eyes were opened to the death that sin causes us,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not just physical death, it's spiritual death, separation from God,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when God
Mhm.
opened my eyes to the death that my sin was causing me, and he showed me, because he was able to bring me to a place of shame, of guilt, but he had me the whole time. He never let go. And hope is the best remedy against guilt, right? Because it's like, shame, it's like, even in this situation, there's something about you that God still wants. Anyone with ears to hear, let them hear, right?
Mhm.
If there's something that keeps you on the path today, let it be hope. And there's hope for everyone in Christ Jesus. But elsewhere, what I realized, and I was exploring all the options, there is no hope. And the world is going the way of the world. It's dying. And I mean, that's what Christianity is to me. It's
Christ-like.
It's Christ-like, yeah, man.
Facts.
It's anointed.
And
You go on.
right. And once you really a true believer, you gotta die to a lot of things. You gotta give up a lot of things.
Yes.
And your
Give up
flesh
the
is not
hope
gonna like it.
of
And
the world.
yes, you're gonna have to give up a lot of things that's not godly. Anything, this is what I say. Anything that's not helping your Christian walk, yes, to Christ and stuff, right? You should give up. Would that mean I shouldn't go to a football game? That mean I shouldn't play tennis or this and that? I'm not really speaking on those things. But if you put in that before God, give it up.
Exactly.
Right?
Well,
If you watching the football game, the Super Bowl game before God, you're cutting service short, you're cutting your Bible studies short before God, give it up. Anything that you want more than God, you should give it up. If it's music, give it up. If it's my podcast, give it up. Wherever the person put before God, you should really give it up. Because some things it's not a sin, but if you make it a sin, if you put it before God, you should definitely give it up.
Well, it's interesting
Um,
that you say, just real quick, I had a
yeah.
dream one time, like a week ago, where someone, this is kind of graphic, but someone cut off the tip of my pinky in the dream. Now, what I
Mm-hmm.
read then today that confirmed this spiritual message for me is that the pinky in body language refers to other people. And so if you're cutting it off, there's certain people in my life, right? Soul ties, we talk about that a
Mm-hmm.
lot, spirit spouses, and these connections maybe from former churches. And I don't want to say
Mm-hmm.
that just like, like if you're not following Jesus, you're not a friend. Like that's not my place. Like, but there are people who keep us back in our walk with
Right.
Christ. There are people who aren't helpful or are even hurting us.
Right.
And we have to be discerning in our relationships. And God brought me through that walk all last week, and now I know why.
Right. And sometimes you don't have to give up your friends. They will leave you
Oh yeah,
because you're not gonna want to walk with them like as you used to. You're not gonna want to go to the bars. You're not gonna want to do the little things. You're not gonna want to
exactly.
go to the parties. You're not gonna want to listen to some things. You're not gonna want to watch certain things. So they're gonna see that you are a killjoy. You're not fun no more. So
Exactly.
they're gonna like, oh, I don't want to be with you. I don't want to be. I don't want to be nowhere around you. I
Yeah.
want to leave you. We're not friends. And that's it. They can stop calling you. They can stop texting you. They can stop DMing you. They can stop. Hey, John, let's go out. Or hey, Preach, let's go out. Or this and that, let's go out. Right? You can start seeing those text messages less because people is not going to really want to go out with a true
Facts.
believer. Maybe a
Facts.
mediocre Christian that's really lukewarm and
Yeah.
really not really saved. They save, but they're not really trying to, really get into it. Right.
Yeah.
And they might not even be saved. They might like, oh, I accept Jesus Christ as my Lord, personal Savior, and that's it. Oh, I got baptized in water, and that's it. But not only get baptized in water, you really got to be baptized with the Holy
Holy
Ghost
Spirit.
because the water doesn't really, it doesn't save you. It
No.
is a metaphor kind of thing
Exactly.
to represent that you're born again and now new creation, that you died and now you risen. So isn't people think, oh my goodness, that's what, because and we really got to leave, but it is because this goes into another something else. That's what the Baptist Church was founded on, baptism, because they believe that baptism saved a new believer, and you didn't have to get baptized by the Holy Ghost.
Right.
Um, but that's for another conversation.
Amen,
And I
brother.
really do hope that the viewers and I hope they launch something from this. Not only just listen to us talking, but launch something. And if you did launch something, make sure DM me, DM John, and tell him how you liked his album. Tap in with me. My DM's always open. Leave a comment in the comment section, stuff like that. Tell us what you learned, tell us what you learned about this, this interview, because I don't just do this interview because I like to run my mouth, right? And, I do talk a lot of times. I do talk a lot,
That's why they call you Preach.
Right. But I'm saying this because I'm getting to a point. When I get scenarios, I'm getting to a point. I'm just not saying a story that sound good. But I'm trying to get to a point, to make it more exciting to the viewers so they understand, because people learn things more when it's a story
Yeah.
and it's getting to a point.
Exactly.
I had a guest on my podcast that he wrote a book, and it was an interesting book, but it was getting to a point. And that's some people just need that. There's a different approach where you talk to different believers, right? As you saying in the beginning, that like some people don't, they don't help like young believers because you in a different walk than they is, and they don't know how to help you in so many ways. But still, if you really being led by the Holy Spirit, you'll be able to help somebody. And maybe God don't want you to talk to that person. He might want somebody else to talk to him. But you really just got to be led by the Holy Spirit. And really, because if you be led by the Holy Spirit, whatever you say to that person is not going to be your words, right? It's going to be the Holy Spirit's word, and He's going to take control. Just like He was saying, he was going to do with Moses when he was going to speak to Pharaoh. He said, "I'll be your mouth." And he's like, oh Lord, I can't speak. I stutter. I do this. I got this. See, he like that. You know, he always did that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't do this and stuff like that. And he's like, Moses, who made your mouth? Like, you did, Lord. I still can't do it. Who made your tongue? You did, Lord. I can't do it. You're like, I need somebody else. You're like, and you can tell the Lord got feelings. He's like, okay, is your brother? He can speak well. You want him? Like, yeah, you can give me my brother. Like, okay, you my mouthpiece, and you tell him the words I want you to say and stuff like that. And that's really all I'm going to say, because we can stay here. Like I said, I can have a 2-hour podcast and I can still be here. But that's all, ladies and gentlemen. I really do, like I said, for the 5th time, I really do hope that you understand this podcast, learn something from this podcast. But until next time, God bless you. See ya.